Dear fellow Cyclones, what is your vision for the future of Iowa State University's athletics? Are you ready to dream big and then leave your comfort zone to make it happen? After 100 and some days in the office, I'm more energized than ever to reach for the stars. I've challenged our staff to do the same. Everyone, including all of you, must commit to doing whatever's possible to help improve Cyclone athletics. Ambitious plans are just that if every one of us does not take personal responsibility for making great things happen. You have my promise that our staff will try new things. Some will be successful and some will not. However, I can guarantee you that we'll not sit by idly and hope things just get better.
In October of 2005, Jamie Pollard walked into the Jacobson Athletic Building for the first time as Iowa State's Director of Athletics. Now, after a decade, Pollard's dreams and ambitious plans can be seen and felt throughout the Iowa State campus and fan base. You can hardly turn a corner without seeing the bricks and mortar improvements to facilities. But for many, it's more than that. It's the feeling surrounding the athletics department. A new energy and community dubbed Cyclone Nation that has reinvigorated fans, staff, students, athletes, alumni, and kids. It's a feeling, an emotion, a moment that makes us Cyclones. At the forefront of that movement has been Jamie Pollard. Cyclones.tv sat down with Jamie to reflect on his time at Iowa State. Jamie, you've just completed your 10th year at Iowa State. Reflect back a little bit on maybe what your expectations were when you came in and how it's all kind of played out.
Well, it's been a really fast 10 years. It's hard to imagine that it has been that. I think back to first getting here and getting introduced to everybody, and how it's played out for me, I think, has been just the relationships and what it means to be at Iowa State and Central Iowa and Cyclone fans, of their passion, how much they care about the institution, they care about who's coaching our teams, who are the student athletes, and we all want to win, and I'm not saying that our fans do not want to win, but I think what makes Iowa State special and what I reflect on that 10 years is just how much they care about the people and care about who you are as a person. And that's what I think about most when I think of the 10 years.
You haven't just, quote unquote, worked here 10 years. You've really made yourself a part of the Central Iowa community, Ames community, the Gilbert schools, you and your family. I'm not from Iowa, but I consider Iowa home now. Do you consider yourself an Iowan?
Oh, absolutely. Home is Ames, Iowa to us. And that's part of one of the reasons when I think back of when I thought about why Iowa State, if I was given that chance, it fit the values that we came here with. We were looking for a college town. It's a company town, and we're the company. That it's a place that you can still be family and keep your doors unlocked. It's simple. We live way too complex in life. When I say we, meaning our industry. Life is complex, and so this does keep it simple, that you can go to your kids' events, that you can be a dad or a mom and still work in college athletics at the highest level. That makes it exciting too, that's part of what makes this place special.
You said recently that coaching searches are the most important thing you do as the Director of Athletics at Iowa State, and you've hired coaches in several different sports. Is there a consistent quality that you look for in coaching candidates, regardless of sport?
Well, if you'd asked me that 10 years ago, I would have said, well, it's a science, and so there absolutely is. When you've done it multiple times and you get a better sense for it, you start to realize it's more an art than it is a science. I mean, there clearly is a science of show me somebody that's won and they'll win again, but at the same time, it's a gut check to figure out who do you think will really fit our culture and fit here best? Because I've worked with some great coaches that wouldn't be great coaches at Iowa State because they wouldn't fit our culture. And this is a culture that requires you to really embrace it and fit in versus somebody that wants to be in the big city and can just kind of run over people in their way to the top. That wouldn't work at Iowa State. I think our constituents are way too astute for that, and they would end up running you out of here if that's how you work.
So it almost sounds like you maybe have changed your approach just a little bit in terms of what you would see as a good fit for Iowa State, or maybe become more aware of what's a good fit for Iowa State.
Yeah, I would say probably just more aware, because I think when I first started, I would have approached it, or I did, and thought of it that way, that, well, if we study this and we're smarter than the next guy, and so we're going to be able to use the science to get this thing absolutely right. And what you quickly learn is that everybody wants to get it right. Texas, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, we all can't be right. Half of us have to be wrong on any given Saturday or any given event, right? So you start to figure out, well, okay, what are those intangible traits that will make that person successful? And so when I fast forward and go 10 years later, if you look at all the metrics, there isn't even a question. You look at what's happened in fundraising, ticket sales, the success of our athletic programs across the board in where we compete in the Big 12, how we do in the Directors Cup. All of the metrics are great, but the metric that really stands out is our fan support. And that fan support outweighs the metrics of the competitive results. And that's kind of an anomaly in our industry. And I think that's a reflection of the fact that we've hired the right people so that our fans are supporting something far greater than just the flavor of the day.
If coaching searches are the most important thing you do, not far behind has to be the concept of giving those coaches the resources necessary to have a chance to succeed. And I think that's an area where you've really excelled with probably more than $150 million worth of facility upgrades, and most recently now the Suck-Up End Zone Club. How do you prioritize facility upgrades, and just how far has Iowa State come in terms of facilities over the last decade?
Well, I think it goes back to starting with just answering the question of, okay, what do we need, not what do we want? And we had a lot of needs 10 years ago. And so we laid out a pretty ambitious facility plan that touched just about every sport. And it's neat to now look back 10 years, and we've done that with the $150, $160 million that we've reinvested or invested in newer, improved facilities. And so that's one. Then number two, it's giving them the operating budgets, whether it's scholarships, recruiting dollars. And how we've approached it is, again, looking at each of those sports, and every sport is different in terms of what do they need based on where they're going to recruit from. Football takes a lot more recruiting dollars because you're recruiting a lot more people and really recruiting a lot further away from Iowa than maybe you can do in some other sports. But you try to put all that together strategically so that the coaches have a fighting chance to be successful. And then you had to sell that message to our constituents, because we haven't done it. Our constituents have really provided us the resources through their donations and ticket sales. And so, it all does come together strategically, because you look and go, football drives it, but where did we invest our money? We invested it in fan amenities, widened the concourses, got rid of the porta potties in the stadium, put in the scoreboards or video boards, did the same thing in Hilton, because that helped reinvest in getting fans to come to events, which then gives us the resources to invest in our sports.
And you mentioned it being a collaborative effort, a team effort. And I think what's kind of unique about Iowa State is you can't say, well, we need this done for our football stadium, so let's call Boone Pickens and get another $30 million check. It doesn't work that way here. You've had to really, truly do it as a team. Just talk about that concept of being creative in how you approach fundraising.
Well, I believe I like to say we've grown it organically, and that it's come naturally. The run in attendance in football, the season ticket sales in football. has come at a time when we haven't necessarily done what most schools would do to get that kind of bump. You know, go win a conference championship or go to a really big bowl game. And so we've been able to just do it systematically, not get way out over our skis. You know, we, I think, are conservative when it comes to what we pay our coaches. We try to think that through, you know, and it's worked well for us because it's allowed us just to grow it in a way that it's going to be able to be sustained. And, you know, we've been able at the same time build up a reserve to protect us, and it's allowed us to, you know, to build some credibility both externally and then internally with the important people on campus that allow us to take on the debt that we took on to do the facilities.
We'll be back with more from Jamie Pollard after this. You know, it seems to me that you've always placed a great value on finding the pulse of the Cyclone fan base. You mentioned that earlier. You've communicated with fans directly far more often than most athletics directors probably do. You created the Tailgate tour, which was a very popular, successful concept. Why is all that so important?
Well, first of all, we've created that. I didn't create any of this. It's a team effort both with our constituents and with our staff. But you know, when you say why is that important, it's important because that's what this culture is about. You know, and that's what makes it fun. You know, is if you want to, you know, be at a place that you're the king and you know it's big time, and that's how you want to behave, then Iowa State's not the place. Iowa State's about the people. And it's about being able to, you know, as I joked during Coach Prohm's press conference, you know, it's being able to walk into Pamela Grocery or Hickory Park and either know the people or be comfortable enough with yourself that you can stop and talk to people that you don't know, but you're going to feel like you know them. And when you live in a big city, you know, you could walk into a restaurant and no one even knows who you are and they don't care who you are. And that's not how it is around here. And so it matters that the plans that you put in place are plans that, whether it's the Little Cyclone Club or the Tailgate Tour changes, or the pricing points that we're putting in for the new stadium, are all geared towards the culture that we operate.
You can't control always the winning and losing, but there are a lot of things that you can control, and in doing so, you've created and again, I say you, but I mean as a team, you have created a tremendous game day experience for fans. I think when you look at, well, why are the attendance numbers still so great in football? Because it's an enjoyable experience for the fans. They love coming out to the stadium. They love seeing their friends. That's something that didn't happen by accident, the way that you've kind of built it toward that.
Well, we've tried to embrace it. A big asset for Iowa State is the tailgating and on football game days. And that starts with the fact that the real estate around the stadium, our parking is second to none. It's so good that it sometimes is a negative because people feel they can't leave quick enough, and you're going, well, okay, we can solve that by having you park miles away and you can leave really quick. But we're able to get great parking close to the stadium, which creates a wonderful tailgating environment. But then it takes cooperation from campus to have good tailgating policies. You know, when I think back to when we changed how long the parking lots would be open, you know, there are a lot of people that have to staff up and spend long days on football game days to make that happen. But campus was willing to work with us and allow that to do it. Our alcohol policies out in the parking lots are probably a lot more liberal than a lot of places, and that facilitates an environment that allows people more to tailgate. What we have with our students, with that student grass parking lot over there in kind of a Studentville, is also very advantageous to getting students to want to come. So you've created something that is more of an event than what happens in a game day, where they're not coming just because of what happens on the field. Quite honestly, if they were, we would have probably a lot more spikes in the high moments and the low moments, and we haven't had that. And then what we do inside the stadium, I think we do a really nice job of trying to blend in corporate sponsors that you have to have, but other things that you put in, music selection, Sweet Caroline. I think we've got a good blend. Is it perfect? No. Will everybody ever say it's perfect? No. But we've tried to embrace it and make it more of an event.
6 weeks after your heart attack in March and your subsequent surgery, you said your love for being the athletics director at Iowa State has never been any stronger. What was it specifically about that whole experience that kind of made you feel that way?
Oh, that's a great one. I go back to the Big 12 tournament. Your all staff played part of it, and Austin came in and filmed me in my hospital bed. The feedback from doing that, I get emotional talking about it, but pretty cool when people are chanting your name. That was kind of unexpected. I don't take that lightly. But I think it was a reflection of just our fans showing that they care about you as a person. I think I already knew that, but that was very tangible, and I'm not the only one that has felt those type of, or that type of feedback. I know Coach Fenley when he went through his cancer in his throat. I mean, it's just, we've got a constituent group that has for a long period of time shown that they care about whether it's our student athletes, Mitchell Myers right now going through his challenges, that they like you as a person. It's great that you're the AD or you're the basketball coach or you're a student athlete, but in the end, they like you even if you weren't, or they care about you even if you weren't that.
Personal opinion, I think part of why fans feel that connection to you is the way that you have reached out to them through the years and embraced being a public figure. Some people hide from it, some people don't want any part of the public figure part that comes with this job. You really have connected yourself to this fan base. And tell me about, after the heart attack, what went through your mind as you said, I'm going to go ahead and tell the public my story and have a press conference and explain to people what I went through. Why did you want to share your story?
Well, in all honesty, those of you that know me well know I wear that activation A as a personality trait, so I can't say I really thought about what I was doing. So you maybe are giving me way too much credit, John, for thinking that there was this master plan of what we're going to do. It was more of just reacting, and it just felt right to share. In large part because prior to having that, most stuff that happens around here we just share. And so it would have seemed unnatural all of a sudden to say, oh, this is off limits because it's too private. It is who I am and who we are. So it just was natural to share, and so it wasn't very strategic.
Have there been other things that you and your family have gained through that adversity, going through all that together, that I know you mentioned at the press conference that you felt like your priorities were in pretty good line before this happened? But has it brought your family even closer, a very close family to begin with? Has it brought you even closer?
Time will tell. I mean, that's probably a work in progress answer. Because I think in the immediacy, yeah, that's the real easy thing to say, but you slip back into old traits real easy, and my family has accused me of that already with my diet, that you're sliding, but I'm more attuned to, I think, and I really think back to, I could go back even further, James. James's life has taught me to be more sensitive to others, And in my role as athletics director, you get numerous opportunities to drop somebody a note or put a hat in the mail or reach out to somebody. And clearly James's life has caused me to be more sensitive and more open to doing that. And I think that this has only enhanced that you take time to just appreciate what's going on in someone's life, and we're working on one right now, not publicly, but just a situation where, I have the opportunity in the position I'm in to make a difference in this person's life, so let's figure out how to do it, because this person may not be here very long, and so it's pretty cool to be able to do something for them.
We'll be back with more from Jamie Pollard after this. During your time at Iowa State, there have been some dramatic shifts in the landscape of college athletics, to say the least, and the Big 12's been in the eye of that storm. Describe that experience and how you've tried to approach it with the long-term health of Iowa State athletics as your priority.
Well, what I learned during the realignment is we got awfully close to the ledge, and we're very fortunate that no one shoved us off, because it would have been a brutal free fall. And it also, it just made you realize how delicate a lot of the stuff has been and how fortunate we are to be in the Big 12. And so it's given me a little different perspective of, fans, and that's not their fault. They don't have all the information that we have on the inside, and so they can draw some pretty hasty conclusions about things. But strategically, it's been really important for us to be in the league and to do some things to make sure that we're valuable within the league as best we can, knowing full well that we learned during that time that there are certain things that could happen that are completely out of your control that could be devastating to the institution. And so I hope nobody, whether it's Iowa State or any school, has to face that. And I don't think that'll be the case, but it was a trying time because it really exposed, I think, both the positives and the weaknesses of our industry and how fragile all that is.
There are critics of college athletics who will say the term student athlete is misleading. I go to the Scholar Athlete Banquet every year. I'm amazed at the number of success stories. Are people getting too caught up in the business side of athletics and really missing out to some extent?
Well, that's another tough question because we've been our own, we certainly haven't helped that as an industry because, we capitalize on fans' interests in the business side of it. So then when it goes the other way, it's hard to say, well, now wait, we don't want you to do that. But that being said, there's student athletes and then there's professional athletes. And 99.9% of college athletes are student athletes. The problem is that 1% or that 0.01% are the ones that get all the publicity and make the general public generalize about everybody. And that part's unfortunate, but it's hard to, I'd be a hypocrite to say we also use that 0.1% to capitalize on our industry, right? Look at the NCAA basketball tournament and the great players that play in that NCAA tournament and how we sell that to CBS and make a big deal out of it. And we all benefit, including the golfer and the soccer player, benefit from that. But then when those few athletes want to try to capitalize on that, we cry foul. So it is a trying time in our industry to try to figure out what's the right balance of that. And I think we're going down the right path, but at the same time that, we're in a capitalistic society, and so there's lawyers that want to also try to capitalize on that 1%. And as long as that's going to happen, it's going to cause more problems for us. So I think we're heading in the right direction of trying to do things like cost of attendance and more things related to student athlete welfare that will help deal with the 99%. At the end of the day, the 1%, if they still feel like they're being taken advantage of, then they need to move and go over to the professional side. And there will be a rude awakening for them too, because that's not all what it's cut out to be.
There have been at Iowa State during your time here some success stories of athletes who've gone on to professional careers in their sport, great success stories. There have been far more examples of student athletes who have gone on to have great success professionally outside of sports, and some of them might never have had the opportunity to go to college without sports. Is that a source of pride for you when you see those student athletes that go on and have success in all different endeavors?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't think the general public really fully grasps, if you were to tell the story of each member of our football program, and some of the background stories on where they've come from and how they got here and where they may end up getting to go is truly phenomenal. And I don't even get to know all of those background stories, and as close as I'm to it, so it's hard to imagine that the general public's going to. But there's some great stories there, and one of my all-time favorites is Leonard Johnson. Leonard Johnson, now that's somebody that went on to do something in the sport of football, but the fact that Leonard Johnson was at Iowa State University was entirely because of Gene Chisholm. And Leonard would have never been able to get into Iowa State if it weren't for football. And his profile was such that, you would have looked and said he'll never make it through Iowa State. He got out of here, in 4 years, has his degree, and is playing in the NFL, and his life is so much different. Yet I still remember a great story. It was the summer after his freshman year, and I saw him. I was standing on the balcony. He was down on the football field, and I said, "Are you going home for the summer?" And he said, "No, why would I ever want to leave Freddie Court?" He goes, "I got my own bedroom." He said, back home I share my bedroom with, and I forget what he said, but I was stunned, and I thought, wow, what a difference we're making for this young man. And he's one of my all-time favorites, and he may be the poster child for me of what's good about college athletics.
Last thing for you, Jamie. At times you almost have to be like a chess player. You have to be thinking 2 or 3 moves ahead constantly. What excites you the most about the next decade of Cyclone athletics, and what would you estimate are the biggest challenges ahead?
Well, what excites me about it is I look at what we've done to excite Cyclone fans in the last decade, and we've done it really without a huge monumental athletic accomplishment. And so I look at it and go, what would happen if we went to the Final Four, or we won a Big 12 football championship, or we played in the Alamo Bowl or the Fiesta Bowl, bowl games that we've never been to in the history of the institution. Those are the kind of things that excite me, because I look at that and go, wow, if we've done this, just think what we could do if we did that. Now, I get it that there's a reason we haven't done that. If it was easy, it would have already been done. But I think back to how it felt to be near that field when we beat Oklahoma State that night. And that was really, really special. Yet there's a lot more of those opportunities still out there to be had that are firsts. Think of the Cyclone Nation if we were at the Final Four. I mean, how neat that would be for fans. And that's what excites me about the future. Yet I also know that getting there is, really hard. And I also know as you get more success, how people start to change. And I don't want to see them change either. I want us still to be who we are. And we have that saying that whenever you accomplish whatever you set out to achieve, don't forget who you are, because that's who you are. Or don't forget who you are, because that's
don't forget who you were.
Yes, because that's who you still are.
Exactly.
Exactly. And people change when they have success, and so one of my goals as athletics director is to keep us all humble and keep us appreciative of those firsts. But easier said than done.
Jamie, thanks for a great 10 years. Looking forward to the next 10.